Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to the second ABAA Town Hall that we've done. My name is Ryan Dalglish. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Air Barrier Association, and I'm happy to act as your moderator today in our town hall all about the QAP program. So just some basic sort of housekeeping issues and an idea of how the town hall format's going to work. So Brian Strike, the chair of the association, is going to start us off being the presenter. And during the course, again, I'm going to be kind of kicking around as your moderator. We do have a number of panelists, so they're all online here, and they're all different industry stakeholders. So we have Andrew Dunlop, an architect with Smith Group. We have Corey Zusman, who does quality control and QA for Pepper Construction. Chris Hudig, a manufacturer with Karnak, Matthew Copestick, who is one of our ABAA auditors, and Mr. Matt Jambroni, who works for OCP Contractors and one of our chair people for the Contractors Committee. So here's kind of the agenda for today. So we're going to go through a couple stats. I'm going to do that after Brian has his presentation. And then we're going to really get into the panelist discussion, and we're going to work our way through each panelist. The intent is to try to get a different perspective on the quality assurance program from the different industry stakeholders in regards to why it's important to them and some of the things that they see as a benefit, but also some of the challenges that we do have today. In regards to how we're going to answer questions. So there is this little sort of chat box. It's usually going to be on the right side of your screen. There's a question box. Simply type in your question. We're going to keep track of these and answer them once we get into sort of the back and forth Q&A. And so if you think of something, just put the question in there, and we're going to make sure that that we can get through it at the end. The whole intent of the town hall meeting is to not spend a lot of time of us talking, but more having it as an open discussion here for our members. So again, we're going to have a presentation by Brian. We're going to talk to each specific panelist, ask them some questions, get some feedback. We expect that's probably going to be around 20 minutes all in, and then a big chunk of it's going to be able to have that conversation. So just type in any questions you have. If you forget, then we can open it up at the end of the presentation. So to start off, we're going to have our presenter, our first presenter, Mr. Brian Strike. So he's the chair of the association and works with an insurance company with general contractors. Brian's also a past QA/QC manager at a large general contractor, so he has the opportunity to present a variety of opinions in regards to what his experience has been. So with that being said, Brian, I am going to send over the presentation to you. It should be coming over right now, and you can bring up your presentation. All right, we could see it, Brian.
You're good to go. Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
So again, thank you everybody for attending and joining us today. I hope you do have some questions and welcome to our town hall on QAP. As Ryan mentioned, in my previous career, I'm probably the poster child for QAP. First time I had this run on my project was about 2003, and I didn't put a whole lot of stock into it. After running the project on an 8-story building, I want all my project managers to have QAP on their project. It gave me that extra set of eyes. I'm going to do a real quick presentation overview for you, and then Ryan will get to moderate some of our panelists. So why a quality assurance process? What does every single one of these buildings have in common? Well, how about all of their design specifications are for individual products, but they're being asked to act as a system, right? That you want the full puzzle already done. We know that building enclosure failures is a multi-billion-dollar annual business. And this goes back from rework, claims, you name it. Problems, water infiltration, moisture infiltration, condensation issues. We know it's an issue, And unfortunately, it's an excellent growth industry right now. That's why we're seeing all these consultants coming out with the building enclosure field. We need them because of all the issues we have right now. So ABAA QAP. I'm going to touch on our three main stakeholders, I believe, in our industry, starting with our owners and architects. The QAP is there. They should give it a peace of mind for you guys. It helps you with know that you're getting evaluated materials to our industry standards. You can also download specifications to help you out. Focus on this primary barrier. If you specify the QAP or the owner asked for it, you know you're getting trained and certified installers. And what does that mean today? For the last 10 years, when I travel the country, I've never heard an area of the country say, hey, we've got so many great installers in the world of construction, we just don't know what to do with them, right? Everywhere we go, there's a labor shortage. With the QAP, you're being assured that you have people who are trained on your project. And then you're also getting that third-party auditor coming out and reviewing the project, kind of like the scientific method, right? Plan, do, check, act. Planning, using the material specs, doing the installers, checking the auditor, and then we at ABAA do the acting and adjusting, as we continue to evolve this process. If you're a construction manager, what are some of the benefits? Again, knowing you have good materials. There are a lot of different materials out there. This way, you can compare apples to apples when you're bidding things out. Again, the idea of that trained, certified installer. These installers have to go through a 3-day training that requires them to pass a written exam. It's an ISO 17024 certification program. And then again, having that auditor coming out, that third party, another set of eyes for your project. And then for our accredited contractors with their certified installers. For you guys, I have to believe this is also reducing your risk, knowing that your people have been trained and reviewed, and they know that what's going on out there. That when you bid projects that have the QAP in it, you should be bidding like scopes against your competitors. And if you have projects that have some sort of problem, be it with a material or with a construction manager, that ABAA can be that third-party neutral person to help out in between. So again, our QAP program, it's as simple as 1, 2, 3. Evaluated materials, using that certified installer, and having a person coming out and audit. Ironically, ASHRAE did a survey about 8-10 years ago, wondering if projects that use a quality assurance program perform better. Lo and behold, not very surprisingly, they do. That's what this chart is showing you right now. So again, just a real quick high overview. Our Air Barrier Association's quality assurance program is as simple as 1, 2, 3, evaluate materials, certified installers, and then having the auditors coming out and reviewing. Thank you, Ryan. Ryan, you might be on mute.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Brian, for that. So I'm going to get into here a little bit of more what we're going to go through. So just bear with me. Okay. So I'm going to do 30 seconds in regards to some fun facts about the QAP. So,
Ryan, can you put your slides on presenter mode?
Sure. There we go. So just a shout out to our award winners for 2020. We had a number of ABAA award winners. These are contractors that had QAP audits and had either no or very little demerit points on them. So we had a good mix right across the country. So just a shout out to our contractors there. Some fun stats: 556 members, 290 accredited contractors, and 985 certified installers for the year. Membership was our highest membership QAP projects, 2,169, and we had over 8 million square feet of opaque wall area that was specified in 2020. Another thing that we do to support the QAP and the industry is education. And this is education to general contractors, design professionals, and so forth. So we trained a tremendous amount of people over the year and actually made a few different records again. In a year with COVID, we were pretty proud with that. So that's all I'm allowed to talk about statistics, because I'm going to get in trouble. I'm speaking too much. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of some of the discussions with our panelists. And I'm going to go through and do an introduction of them, and then we're going to ask a few different questions. So our first panelist, an architect's perspective. So Andrew Dunlop is on our board of directors, along with the executive committee. He is co-chair of the research committee, so has spent quite a bit of time looking at some of the issues. He works for a company called Smith Group, a large architectural firm in the United States, and he is the principal of their building technology studio. So Andrew, if I was going to ask you a question as an architect, why is the QAP important for you to make sure you have a good project?
Well, I mean, it's going to be hard not to say almost all the stuff that Brian said. From an architect standpoint, one of the big struggles we actually do have in our industry is how much ability we have to get to site to review things, and the amount of information we are responsible for trying to control and specify. So there's a lot of activity going on in this space right now. Again, starting out with the materials, there are so many options for architects to pick. So to have an organization that's, doing in a way a first cut, a real serious vetting that at least they meet these material and assembly properties. So we have a starting point of where to go to. And also ABAA is a great resource to reach out to and ask simple questions to about these materials. So they're excellent resources for architects that may not have to deal with this stuff on a regular basis. I would say that, in the whole world of architecture, the amount that are on the technical side is not a large amount. There's all kinds of different architects that have to focus on so many other parts of the building. So to have this pre-vetting process for the materials and assemblies is critical for us to use as a starting point. And then again, getting back to the field, I'm fortunate I get to get out to the field quite a bit, but our industry as a whole does not have that option afforded to it typically. And when we're able to get out to the field, again, given all the materials and the technologies that are out there, there is a ton to keep up on. So knowing that we have trained installers, and not just trained installers, but installers that are, up to date training, right? There's expirations to this training, so we know that they're keeping up to date with the technologies. There's a hierarchy of the installers too, so it's not just a one and done training. We're getting a tiered approach to the installation, which is important to us as well. And then lastly, the auditing process, again, hitting it from what Brian's talked about. Just like many architects aren't able to get to a site, many projects don't necessarily have budgets for independent enclosure consultants to be on those projects. So having this built in as part of the process for the auditing to make sure that the installers are doing what they said they're going to do and check it, and knowing that there are ramifications if they're not. There's real teeth in that process, and it elevates the whole industry. So again, for us, it's a huge resource to be able to rely upon, because again, we're not always able to get into the thick of it as your typical architectural practice.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Andrew. You were at your 2 minutes, so you did a good job. I might pepper you with some questions later.
Ryan.
No, we're cutting you off. Okay, thanks. We're going to go on to the next panelist here. Okay, so next up, we have Mr. Corey Zusman. It was hard to fit his credentials on this slide. I think, Corey, you win the award for the most credentials of anyone in the history of the United States. So Corey, for those that don't know, works with Pepper Construction. involved in QA/QC. Pepper Construction has a great program in place in regards to quality control and quality assurance, and I've had the opportunity to see Corey present a number of times, and he's presented at our ABA conference also. So we're great that Corey's here with us and a member of the association. So Corey, I'm just going to unmute you here. Do you have yourself on mute there, Corey? You might just need to unmute yourself.
Well, he doesn't. I just want to also note with all those letters, the most important ones I see, it says CABS, Certified Air Barrier Specialist. Go ahead, Corey.
Well,
Yeah,
good morning.
one of the first ones. So Corey, thanks for popping on. As a general contractor, you know, quality is obviously very important to you. So how does the QAP actually help you, Corey, as a general contractor?
So as you can see, training is very important to me. I know that the individual tradesmen are trained on the installation. They know how to detail a pipe. They know how to detail a base, a wall, a window. I don't have any questions there. They're smart. They ask questions. They don't take things for granted. So if there's something that they're uncomfortable with, they bring those questions up. And I don't get that with most contractors, except for the ABAA installers. Another thing is, you know, they are accountable. So, you know, they're accountable not only, you know, to my project, but they're accountable to you guys, to ABAA. So their certification means a lot to them. And that, like Andrew mentioned, that teeth it means a lot, right? They don't want to screw that up. So they're very careful on what they do. They look at the materials beforehand. They know how to have a pre-installation meeting. They're just very comfortable with the ABAA installers. It just makes my life a little bit easier.
Perfect. Okay, thanks, Corey. All right, so we're just going to keep going around the horn here. So the next individual that we have up is Mr. Chris Hudig. So Chris works with Karnak Corporation, so he's one of our manufacturer members. He's also chair of the ABAA QAP committee. So he's been helping as we come up with certification requirements for installers, recertification requirements for installers, seeing how we can improve the audit process. There's a whole big list when it comes to some of the work that Chris has on his plate here. So Chris, as a manufacturer, you know, we're going to evaluate your material, but how does the ABAA QAP and accredited contractors in the audit, how does that actually help you? Is there any value to it, Chris? Oh, and Chris, we might just need to get you unmuted here. Okay, you should be good.
There we go. Thank you. The QAP program with ABAA is tremendous. When I first heard about it and got involved in ABAA, I immediately wanted to get involved with the QAP program because it adds so much benefit to me as a manufacturer. You know, any manufacturer can feel like they make the best products in the world, but if they're not applied correctly, then they're not going to serve their useful purpose and what they're intended for. So as a manufacturer, I want to support any of the ABAA contractors, installers as best I can. One of the first things I think of is really education from our side, you know, supporting them and understanding the proper application processes for not only our products, which are fluid applied, but also, you know, those that manufacture foam and the sheet membranes as well. You know, we need to have our documentation, but we also have to have easy access for it. So I think finding ways today to get contractors to find out where that information lies. You know, it's not only online. Companies have apps, and there's other ways to get stuff too. So just having easy access to documents, technical data sheets, safety data sheets, and application guides so they can better understand how to use the products and really read about it maybe before the job starts so they're ready to hit the ground when they get there. You know, and then, you know, really as a manufacturer, our one sole purpose is to really manufacture quality products that meet ABAA's performance criteria. You know, we make these products that are third-party certified and you know, and evaluated. We need to continue that high quality. So as a manufacturer, my sole purpose is really to provide quality materials to the industry. On the other avenues of how a good manufacturer can support ABAA's contractors is really to promote the site quality assurance program. As I said earlier, it's such a valuable tool for a manufacturer to support and have because it supports all people, the building owner, the contractors, and us as a manufacturer. We need to talk about that as manufacturers when we're talking to contractors, when we're talking to architects, in any of our presentations and in our printed literature. We need to promote the QAP program, and so everyone understands the benefits of it. Lastly, I would say a manufacturer is really support ABAA in general. Support the quality assurance program, support ABAA. Go to and attend annual meetings and be active. We have a great organization and a committee, the quality assurance program, that any manufacturer can join in and add and help build the industry up for us. So I think those are kind of when I think about that, Ryan, the big tips of how a manufacturer can support the ABAA contractor.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much, Chris. There's a couple questions we're going to get back to a little bit with a few that came in here. Okay, next up, we have Matthew Copestick. So Matthew is one of our ABAA auditors and gets to be on the front lines in regards to sort of what's happening there. Matthew, as I'm kind of doing introductions, we have you self-muted. So if you could just unmute yourself there, then we can get going. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Matthew. So yes. Matthew is a licensed field auditor. He's a senior consultant at a consulting agency here. So for you, Matthew, you're an auditor. You're going to the site to do QC for ABAA to make sure. So how can you help the contractor, Matthew? How can you provide more value than, hey, I seen something and you have to fix it?
I think a lot of the wind has already been taken out of my sails by the previous presenters. I mean, obviously the auditor's first mission, if you will, is to verify that the contractors are following the QAP and providing a quality product to ultimately the building owner. But I don't like to see the position as a cop or an overseer. I like to see it as I'm working alongside the contractor. ABAA and the industry as a whole is always bettering itself. So working with the contractor to verify that they're not only following the program and providing a quality product, but also to address specific constraints or issues that we're now seeing arise on projects, because buildings are getting more and more complex. Thank you, architects. And the air barrier is getting more complex than the materials itself. There's a lot of different materials that want to be compatible with other materials and some that don't. And part of our goal is to, contractor's very busy. He's trying to get stuff on the wall. At the same time, he's running into constraints and issues that he might need help with. And that's where I'd like to take a proactive approach. And when I get an audit, I initially reach out to the contractor, not only to verify that they've got the basics in step, have your materials been approved by the architect? Do you have your submittals in? But what are you facing out there? What are the other trades doing to you? What are you getting pushback on from the design team or the GC or things of that nature? That way, when I'm on site, not only am I verifying that things are being installed properly, mill thicknesses, testing, et cetera, but let's take a look at this unique window opening and find out if we think ultimately it's going to perform, because that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to provide buildings that are meeting the air barrier standards that ABAA is coming up with and get the industry better as a whole. Kind of the mindset I have is, steel sharpens steel. Am I perfect? No. Is the contractor perfect? No. But working alongside each other, we can provide a better product to ultimately who we're giving it to.
Perfect. Thank you, Matthew. So now we have Matthew number 2. So we have Matt Jambroni. He is with OCP Contractors. He sits on our board and also chairs the Contractors Committee, right? And the Contractors Committee is, working on how to improve things, how, technically and so forth. So Matt, you've been a certified installer, or you are a certified installer. You've been involved with the QAP, but we know it's challenging, right? So as an ABAA contractor, how do you get the job? Because everyone wants to value engineer the QAP out. What do you think, Matt? And you may have been just self-muted, so let me just double check here. Okay, try now, Matt.
How about now? We good?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Excellent, excellent. So, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but, being an ABA certified contractor, it gives me that slight edge over the other contractors who perform or do the work like the OCP does. So not only can we provide, certain things, studs and cladding and things like that, but we do the envelope as an ABA certified contractor. So, not all projects do go ABAA, which I wish they did. But when I put out my bids, I always have my ABA licensed certified contractor certificate with that. That kind of raises eyebrows to the general contractor and to others that are in the design team, and they say, "Wow, look at this! This is OCP is a certified contractor." They know they have this QAP. And with that, the QAP, it ensures the installers are following the manufacturer's guidelines. We complete daily reports, to record thickness applications, temperatures, substrate, and ambient, moisture content, adhesion testing, location of where we're applying the material. And we have the certified installers on site. All of my installers are all certified or registered installers. So, completing these reports really helps to ensure that the materials are being properly installed, which leads, the most important to me as a contractor, is less or no go backs due to any sort of water infiltration. So that's the big portion of it. But the program offers so many different types of training as well for my installers. For air vapor barrier materials, fluid applied, self-adhered, spray foam, board stock. And while the guys are installing the AVB materials, depending on the size of the project, we can have people come out and do a third-party audit and an inspection. All of these audits are performed by, obviously, people like Mr. Copestick, who are certified ABA auditors, to ensure that my guys are not only following the application of the manufacturers, but following the QAP guidelines. And they also check to make sure we're following the job specifications. And a lot of times, you run into something different, something you don't normally see. This is where that third set of eyes or fourth set of eyes comes in and takes a look and says, "Oh, hey, look at this. I saw this. What are you guys doing here to ensure you have, a full, envelope, a full system?" And that to me, as a contractor, really helps me out to provide to the general contractor and to the owner and to the architect, "Hey, this was what you specified. This is how we installed it," and it verifies it.
Okay, perfect, Matthew. So let's get into a bit of a discussion here. So we've talked about, everyone's position, how they can help, why it's important. So let's get into some meat and potatoes with some questions that have come in and so forth. So we know one of the challenges we have with the QAP is it gets spec'd and then it can get value engineered out at the GC level. And so that can be frustrating for our contractors, and everyone kind of has a bit of a part if that. So if we said, okay, we're going to go to the owner, we're going to go to the design team, we're going to go to the general contractor, what can we do better to sell the process of the QAP to those individual stakeholders? So I think I'd like to get a couple different opinions here from people. Brian, let's maybe start with you. As a past general contractor, past manufacturer, now into the insurance industry, the QAP can get kicked out. What suggestions would you make for our contractors and members of how we can turn that tide a bit?
Yeah, I really believe it's that education, Ryan, and I think it's allowing the CMs to understand what they're getting with this program, and the fact that if you're writing the QAP, there's this huge misconception that you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it. You're not. I mean, it's a fractional cost to have all this extra quality assurance on your project. And I always, Wade Dionise, who's one of the founding members of ABAA, always said, hey, if people don't want to listen, scare them. And the truth is, as I started my presentation, building failures is the truth. We have a lot of issues with our building enclosures failing. If it's not in the first year, it's in the 5th year, right? Letting people know, let's get rid of those. We can build, we know how to build, and we can build better buildings. This is a process that helps get us there.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's get some other opinions with some of the other stakeholders. So Andrew, I'm gonna shift over to you. You know, you're an architect, you believe it, you put it in the spec, but you have challenges of it getting value engineered out. Any suggestions of how we as ABA or our ABA accredited contractors, what things can we do to help you keep it in the spec? And you may just have to, there you go.
Thank you. Yeah, again, a little bit of broken record, but understanding the cost is huge. Brian mentioned this, like hundreds of thousands. It's like 10,000 or less oftentimes, right? And I kid you not, it was less than 6 months ago, I got told it was going to cost $60,000. And so the big thing that we did with that was reached out directly to the ABA office and had them help develop a response to that and use the QAP calculator that's online. I mean, it's an easy tool to use. You put in your square footage, you can put in your total project cost, and it can give you the percent of that total project cost, which is, that's eye-opening alone. Oftentimes it's 0.1% of the cost of a project. I mean, it's nothing. Most of the time when I'm confronted with a value engineering and we just cover that one item alone, it typically comes off the table. But in conjunction with that, though, Brian mentioned this from an education standpoint, we need to be able to articulate the benefits. And I think we're all saying what all the benefits are here. That needs to be handed over to ownership and to the CMs. I mean, that's where the decision typically is run. And to me, oftentimes with ownership, educate the owners, because if the owners understand what it's about, they can direct it to happen. Far too often, our owners want to understand what's happening, and they're maybe not brought to the table. So they ultimately do get to make that decision. So we need to include them in that process. And then lastly, I'll just reemphasize, reaching out to all of us and, Ryan at the main office. And every time there's an issue with this, again, I get support from ABA, whoever that may be. And I'd be willing to bet everybody on this panel and many of our other board members would be willing to help out in any one of those conversations that people need. So feel free to reach out to us directly or through Ryan and utilize the staff and the board of directors to help keep these on projects. So those are my 3 main reasons. Again, cost, benefits, and utilize the support structure that we have.
Okay, perfect, Andrew. Perfect, Andrew. So if we shift to the
1 second, Ryan. For those on the webinar, Andrew is saying Ryan, and for those of you who want to make sure you know who that is, it's Louise on your webinar. Okay, just so people understand who we're referencing. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Just in case I said something wrong, I didn't want to use my real name. Okay, so let's look at the GCN. So Corey, I'm going to shift over to you. This is again building on some of these questions that have come through, but for yourself, right? So you get the spec. It's got QAP. You're going, can we keep it in? You get pressure. Let's strip out anything that has to do with quality. So what can the association do, or what can our accredited contractors do to help keep it in the spec and not get value engineered out? And Corey, I think you might just be on self-mute, so okay, you should be good.
Okay. So, we see no benefit of removing ABA from our spec. I mean, it only benefits us. So, but like, Andrew and I think Brian mentioned, knowing the cost up front, the real cost is key, because other contractors who are not ABA installers, they're the ones who are blowing it up. They're the ones who are saying, hey, this is just going to cost you a lot of money. It's not worth it. As far as on our end, I have lots of examples of projects that don't have ABA installers that we've had to remove and replace with ABA installers, although not following the program, but at least we knew that they knew what they were doing. When we reach out to the manufacturers, they're more apt to give us ABA installers. The more true information that you're able to give the GC, the more chance that we're going to see it in the contract. We're a little, maybe a little bit different, but there's very little downside on having ABAA installers on our job. It just doesn't make sense to remove that item from our scope. So we try real hard to keep that in there. Very rarely is it removed.
Yeah. So Corey, with that, like, we have Pepper committed to quality, so if you were talking to another general contractor, would you just say, hey, it's worth it, the cost isn't much? Is that more of just an educational initiative that ABAA has to undertake, a real focus on general contractors?
It is. I think if you explain the cost and then break that down with how many hours it's going to take them to try and review and do all that extra work, it's going to be a net positive. So, the more you're able to show that my PM's time is being saved by having your program in place, that's what's going to sell it, if there's any hesitation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the feedback. So staying on that same theme, Matt, we're going to go over to you, and this is Matthew number 2. So Matt Jambroni with a subtrade. We'll get back to the other Matthew here. So Matt, you struggle this. You see QAP jobs. It gets given to a contractor that's not accredited, and so that can be a challenge. So have you had any successes you can share where you were able to sell, maybe even if it wasn't a QAP project, that you were able to get a project just because of your credentials?
Oh, absolutely. That's actually been used on multiple occasions, actually. Like I said, anytime a bid is put out on my behalf, because I'm also an estimator, I attach my ABAA QAP certified contractors certificate, and all my emails, I have that plastered everywhere. So anytime I even email somebody, they see that as well, which, it lets everybody know, hey, this guy really knows what he's talking about when it comes to the building envelopes. So in leading on to that, that's actually created a little bit of buzz in my industry, in my area. And so now there's actually other contractors who are, looking into the ABAA a little bit more, like, oh man, I lost that job to OCP. And there's actually been a couple contractors in my area who have now become ABAA certified, and that doesn't hurt my feelings at all. I welcome that because I know that even if I'm not part of that building, I know it's going to be done right. That's why I'm part of the ABAA, is I believe in what we do and what we can do to create better buildings.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Matt. So the other Matthew, performing the audit, and you'll be doing third-party consulting and maybe commissioning and whole building air tightness testing. And you'll interact with the GC. You could maybe be interacting with the owner itself. How would you convince someone, say if you were involved in the third-party QC part of it outside of ABAA, how can we integrate maybe with some of our auditors that may be on the job already?
I think you need to get, I can't remember who mentioned it earlier. You need to drive at the owner. They're the ones putting up the money, and they're the ones that need to understand the point and the payback for not only commissioning, but a program like ABAA's QAP. When I work with a couple of the hospitals that I'm tied in with, when we are doing full buildings, the first thing I ask them is this an ABAA project? And most of them are like, what do you mean? We already have you on board. And I'm like, you still want to put ABAA in there, because while I'm on site, if you don't get a quality contractor, then I'm going to live here. You might as well give me my own trailer, because I'm going to sit here and be like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, do it again, which is not, it doesn't help anybody. And like Matt number 2, which I now get to call him forever since we live in the same city, like Matt number 2 said, you want to push the industry more towards giving everyone on the playing field of being good and not just providing service. And when you do, then you start getting better and better and better contractors, which makes my life a whole lot easier. So if you guys could pick it up, that'd be great. And when you get in front of the owners and you show them, the hardest thing we have to talk them into is commissioning, because they're just now understanding what commissioning is. Talking them in to the QAP through ABAA is actually fairly simple, because you say, hey, this is essentially a QA QC program on steroids. You're putting a lot of it onto the contractor, who has to know that their guys on site know what they're doing, because if it's not perfect, it's not accepted. It's not one of those things that you're just going to kind of blasé over and move on to masonry and bury that stuff in the wall. You're going to have not only their set of eyes and documentation on it, you're going to have someone like me show up and look at it. And if they're already 25, 30% of the way into the project and everything's shingled backwards, sorry, it's not going to be accepted. It's not that, it isn't just going to be like, all right, it's there, let's move on. So it's one of those things that once you get them to understand that they're getting a quality contractor, which is the biggest thing, then they understand why the program makes a lot of sense.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you. So we've a couple questions coming in. So I'm just going to kind of go through them. Some of them are specific to individuals and some more common. So let me just go through here. So a quick one here. We had Brian Carey, how does ABAA make sure that the guys who were trained was on site? That's part of the audit process. So, Matthew's coming on site. He's like checking the ID cards. What are they certified in? The daily records have that documented. So that becomes sort of part of that verification that's done. Brian, one question for you here that came in. Do you have any statistics in regards to money related to the cost of quality of the money spent on air water resistant barrier claims? So it sounds like, do you have any metrics to say X amount, million, billion dollars because of air water barriers, or is it more specifically enclosures?
The numbers I've seen and heard for, I'm going to say rework, because there's a couple different ways to measure this. One in the insurance industry is construction claims, and that number is lower than the actual rework that's out there. So a lot of times a good contract construction manager or or installer will take care of an issue before it gets to an insurance company. But the amount of rework that we've heard on the enclosure, again, it accounts for 70, 80% of the rework on a construction project with potential failures. So I don't have the exact dollar numbers, because again, it's good. I don't have that as a whole country number. I don't have my information. But man, it's expensive, and it's a huge number. Talking with other insurance people of the amount that goes out every year to fix problems that we don't need to fix, that we can do right the first time. That's the frustrating part.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other the presenters? Corey, do you have any metrics or anything? I'm thinking you would be the guy that probably has this written on your wall somewhere.
I do, actually. It's on my wall. It's funny you mentioned that. So we catch a lot of things in the beginning, right? During the construction process and during the rework. So a little over 24% of our rework costs during construction is based on the air barrier trades. And it's about $1.1 million. So 25% of that. So about $300,000 of rework and time spent we have on just items that we've been correcting during construction. So yeah, again, that number has just been increasingly getting better and better. We also track how many hours our team spends on it, and it's about 350 hours spent on managing that work. So, and that's
so you literally have it on your wall.
Last year. I do. I literally have it on my wall here. I'll show you real quick. You see those?
Wow, there you go.
Great.
Funny you mentioned that, but
Was not joking.
So, yeah, it was not. So we do actually track it year over year. I've been doing this for nine years with this much information, and it's been steadily going down. And I can honestly contribute to that to the training that you guys do.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's actually, maybe that gives us an idea of some of the metrics we can provide to our contractors or architects or GCs, saying, here's some of the real value, because you're correct. Corey, it's your time, right? It's your project manager's time, it's everyone's time, and that necessarily might not show up unless you're really digging down like you do. So that's a great idea for sure. So I'm just going to keep going through some stuff here. I'm just scrolling through. So one thing that kind of a comment here, common objection to the QAP, it says, in a market, we might not have multiple ABA certified contractors, or we might have enough, but they're just not willing to bid it. So that can obviously create challenges where we have a competitive bidding situation. How do we change this? I don't know, Chris, from a manufacturer standpoint, is there something manufacturers could do to help us build some capacity?
Thank you. Boy, that's a tough question. From our side, I think a little more education in the area. I think collaboration of maybe people inside that manufacturer's office, regional sales managers, the salespeople, boots on the ground in that area to try to, promote the use and promote our services to contractors, and try to get contractors in the area that do business with our products to try to, entice them and tell them about the QAP program and how they need to be an ABA certified contractor. I think from that standpoint, we can help attack it from that front.
Okay, perfect. And then for those designing, so Andrew, this might be a question for you on that same thing. You're self-muted, so you'll have to just unmute yourself there. You're designing projects all over. You could end up being in an area where you don't have. Is there a way that we can overcome that?
Yeah, I think, again, I'll just go off from what Chris said. The more the manufacturers can support that the installers are getting that is going to be a huge help to us. But I'll go to every one of our disciplines asking for the same thing. The contractors as well, pushing for more of the other installers to become, and maybe one of the things we might want to do as a goal moving forward is figuring out what are their hurdles to becoming certified installers, so that we do have more available to us. But I think, as a designer, we're going to continue to put it in as a requirement. And I think as long as we keep pushing that bar forward and higher, I think more people will join in, similar to what Matt Jambroni was saying, that they'll want to become a part of this. So I think that we just all have to just continue to push for it.
Yeah, great. Okay, we got Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
The other comment I'd make to this is I was willing to train wherever. So especially with the current virtual trainings, if you have an area that you want this in, you don't feel you have enough contractors, let ABA know. Reach out to Ryan/Louise there and let us know that you need more training in your area. We'll get in touch. We can reach out to the manufacturers in that area who are strong in that area and help try to find the right installers to attend some of these trainings and start working your area, if that's what you're looking for. Absolutely.
Yeah, and this kind of ties into one of the questions, who and where do you do the training? That came in from Charles. So Charles, we really offer it in various locations across the U.S., some central, some west, some east, some north, some south. And a lot of it's based on demand. But again, we've had cases where there's been, say, a state that there just hasn't been, maybe we don't have the numbers to run the course. We've run a course going, okay, we might take a little bit of a hit. We'll make it up over here. So that's always a possibility to do that. So, the training's 3 days. The training's, defined for someone that does have experience. So we're not training someone that came from making bread or pasta or whatever into it. And so a couple days of theory and then a day of like hands-on. So we have mock-ups that are built. The installers get a chance to physically touch those materials. and we're looking at even some other possibilities for upgrading and so forth. All right, so we've knocked off.
Ryan, I got one more add-on to this. Something else that architects can do. So one of the big benefits of this whole program is I can just specify the program, right? And I'm done. I don't have to worry about writing out my own QAP program in a spec. However, if we're in an area that has limited certified installers and you want to try and keep that playing field level, you can enhance your spec to have a very specific task list of what needs to be checked by the installers, basically mimicking the QAP to some degree, so it brings them up to the other certified installers level and gives a more level playing field for bidding. So while they may try and take QAP out, you can still bolster your spec to require many of the same things. So when you're in an area that is limited, it is probably more strongly encouraged to get more into your spec besides just saying follow the QAP.
Okay, perfect. A couple more questions. This is just from Tom. Do we have a map kind of showing where the jobs and things are? Yes, we do. We kind of have an indication of like what states and how many are specified QAP, and so that's something that we can share. We also track QAP jobs through construction management data services, so we know where the jobs are being spec'd, and we have some metrics. So those are some of the information that we're able to do. Just a follow-up question here from Brian. You know, can installers get certified now? Yes, we do online training. Is it as good as face-to-face? Obviously not, because we don't have that hands-on component. But one of the things that that's going to be part of the certification, if it's something like online training, is that they actually have a practical assessment by a local auditor to make sure that they know to install it. So usually we get to see them install in an educational setting, but with virtual we don't. So we're looking at actually adding another layer to get certified, that I would go out and go, yeah, you know, Matt knows what he's doing. I'm seeing him spray. You know, he's proven to me that he has the skills to do it. So that's something a little bit new, and we're just working through some of those logistics to go through that.
Can I add to that a little bit, Ryan?
Yeah, of course.
As a contractor committee chairman, you know, we are always looking at additional ways to help our installers and our contractors further their education and become recertified. So like Ryan was saying, we are working on something virtually to be able, you know, with COVID, to be able to verify whether our installers are keeping up to date with their certifications, and to actually become certified if you're a new installer for the member. You know, we're working on it, and you know, it's soon to be coming out.
Cool. One sort of
Hey, Brian?
other. Oh yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I just would add to that as well. You know, being able to do that with an auditor is a great chance to meet your local auditor, you know, in a very friendly manner that's not on a project, and establish and start that relationship. So I just wanted to point that out as well.
Okay, cool. One question again, just on that, is the temporary measure for COVID, same cost as the live training. So we did put it together because of COVID. It actually costs less. We have less expenses because we're not flying people around or paying for food or, you know, building mock-ups. So the cost has come down for that. I think the plan moving forward is going back to face-to-face, but maybe online virtual still has a portion of that. We haven't worked out those details yet. So that's something that we'll continue to assess. You know, it's face-to-face is the best, right? And so we're kind of dealing with the cards that we've been dealt, and we'll see when we can get back to normal, whenever that happens, after wave 7, wave 8, whatever. 2031, we'll see you guys at the ABAA conference. So anyway, I'll keep going through. There's a couple questions here coming in that are more kind of just specific that we'll respond to in regards to some metrics and so forth. So we won't go through those here. So let's take another look here. Should ABAA send an auditor to a job even when an audit isn't scheduled? Paid for by ABAA, but not paid for by the contractor. I'm thinking this has to do with we just randomly send someone out and it's still an ABAA QAP job. Tom, can you just clarify that for us? And maybe while I was doing that, I'll just go to the next question. So it says, will there be an integrated WRB AB certified training in the future? Yes, we are looking at that. Primarily everything's spray foam, fluid applied, self-adhered, but you do have board stock. So we have a course for board stock. And then there's these new materials coming out, like the integrated ones. So that's something that we'll have on the agenda here. So a couple more, let me just see here that are coming in. Okay, here's one, and then this is maybe a question for everyone. It says, how does the QAP spec, can we actually quantify that it would lead to a more airtight building, and how do we sell that, right? So how do we sell it through energy savings? How do we sell it through moisture and so forth? So this could be a bit of an open question. Anyone wants to put up their hand? If not, I'm randomly going to ask someone. But if we're looking at QAP and to try to, keep it in the spec, is there a way that we can sell, the air tightness of it? And does anyone know, hey, if you're at a 2 and we go to a 1, this is quantified how much energy savings you would have? So Brian, you're off mute, so you can speak.
Hey, thanks, Louise. We will say, on the ABAA website, airbarrier.org, there is the air barrier calculator. When this was put together, I asked very specifically to have it done so a common person like myself, who doesn't know how to run Woofy or some of these other models, could run it. It's a very easy program to use. To Ryan's point, it can show you what normal air leakage is versus a tighter building, and show you the energy savings roughly in your area using that. And then as we talked today, the 1, 2, 3s, using the good material, a certified installer, having somebody check it, really enhances the odds that that building's going to be done right and hit that lower number. So I'd say that combination, you can go and show any owner today, go play with the calculator online. It's easy to use. Show what kind of energy savings you can have if it's installed right. And then you're promoting the fact that, hey, we have installers who are trained, who are certified. We have materials that have been evaluated to the industry standards, right? And then we're coming back with that checking, verify, trust but verify type idea with our auditors. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I use that air barrier calculator in a lot of my presentations, and I actually focus more on the moisture side of things than the energy savings, right? Because you can quantify going, and it's going to be this many less gallons of water going in. And so if you're like 2 gallons or a half a gallon, which one do you want? This one's going to cost a little bit more, but you're going to get way less water in your wall. People, I think from the owner and GC standpoint, get that. Where, literally in a presentation, I'm like, see this cup of coffee? You're going to have like 800 of these in a square foot in your wall over the period of a year. And then all of a sudden it becomes real to people. I actually call it the bait and switch. So tell people that it's going to save, moisture issues, and by the way, you get some energy savings with it. But maybe people don't care as much about that. But let me just go through here. Any other questions? Okay, so this is another one. It says, on a QAP project, how does it tie into the facility program post-project? Are there tools to show the QAP proof of value to a facility manager back to the owner decision maker? I don't know, anyone willing to take that one on?
Again, Ryan, I'll just throw out there, everybody else can jump in here. By using that air barrier calculator, again, to your point, it also shows moisture. It shows you what typical buildings are built at versus a good quality building. And if you're using good materials, good installers, and you're verifying it, it really, really enhances the chance your building is going to perform the way you want it to, which gives you that longevity and durability and sustainability that everybody wants.
Yeah, I'll put on 2 other points here. Ryan mentioned moisture, and that's talking about humidity that's moving with airflow. But many of our air barriers are also water resistive barriers that are stopping liquid water, which by far is going to be just as bad, if not worse, right? If we have liquid water entering our walls. So that's not even quantified yet, but at least having that extra level of eyes looking at stuff as it's going in gives a level of comfort and confidence that you'll have hopefully a lot less issues with from a water tightness standpoint. And then one other item, just from a research standpoint, many of these topics are things that we're trying to look for buildings to actually test, to actually do full whole building air leakage testing on, both during installation and post installation, like how are they holding up over the years? And then in addition, possibly comparing some that had QAP versus some that didn't have QAP. So we're looking to identify buildings and research efforts to do that. Frankly, it hasn't been done yet. It is probably one of our biggest challenges to try and find buildings that are that fit that bill. So there's ongoing discussions every year about this, multiple times a year. We put in for grants often to address this as well. So hopefully we'll get one to land soon, and we'll move forward with it.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. Okay, we're pretty much at our hour. We've answered a lot of the questions that have come in. There's a few that we're just going to kind of have to work through. So how we ended off this way. So how about we go around the horn here, and in 15 seconds, or however, what would be some final comments that you could provide to our membership of what else we could do to help with the QAP, or what things you think we can add to provide more value? And so I'm just going to stick up. So Chris, I'm picking on you first. What 10, 15 seconds, any words of wisdom to end it off?
Well, one of the things I wanted to say earlier is from the liquid applied side, 73% of failures or deficiencies are due to poor surface prep, and having the QAP and having that contractor write those daily reports is going to help ensure that these things every day are done right, so the building owner is going to get what they want.
Okay, that's a great statistic, Chris. Yeah, so it's not just about the air barrier, it's about the substrates and all that. Cool. All right, let's go to you, Corey.
So you have a partner, with you in this process. So an air barrier ABAA installer, he knows what he's doing. He's going to help you the entire project through.
Perfect. All right, Matthew, number one.
I will say for our contractors on this presentation, one thing I've seen recently, it's not part of the QAP, it's kind of above and beyond, but it is a great double check, is they've been doing final wall sign-offs, where before any other trade touches that wall, they have somebody at a Matthew number 2 level look at the wall, make sure that it is done to how they like it, and say, all right, the next trade can go. And I can guarantee you that prevents a lot of rework, and it protects our contractors because they can say, here's what I provided in case the wall gets damaged. So I would highly recommend thinking about that.
Cool, thank you, Matthew. Andrew.
Two things. Piggybacking off what Chris said, those installer worksheets are critical because if there is a problem, we can backtrack where that problem might have been and eliminate a whole other area that we don't have a problem, hopefully. So those are critical. They cannot be underestimated. And then number 2 for other people is the CABS program. Continue the education for ourselves, not just our owners, but educate ourselves so that we know more about all this so that we can continue to have the conversation.
Perfect, thank you, Andrew. All right, Matt. 2.
On top of everything that everybody has always just said, we do offer online training for additional types of continuing educations that we offer to our accredited contractors. And we also do have a contractors-based newsletter. We put it out quarterly that have awesome tips and tricks from industry professionals who have been in there for a long time, and new articles on just basic important issues that we as contractors run into every single job.
Perfect, thank you, Matt. So just as a sort of a wrap up here, we want to thank all of our panelists for coming on today. I think we had some great discussions of what we can do to help. Just because this town hall is ending, hopefully it's shown you that we're here to help with whatever you need. So we've talked about some good ideas. We've talked about things that you can do, what ABA can do. So let's just keep that conversation going and see what we can do to help support the industry. So again, on behalf of the Air Bearer Association of America, our membership and our board, we want to thank you for taking the last hour. We could have probably talked for, well, we could have probably talked all afternoon if we really wanted to get into some of these things. So this was just like a little one, and maybe we'll look at the next one, maybe getting into some more details with that. So without further ado, thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you very much to our panelists, our presenters, and have a great day, everyone. We've actually recorded this too, so we'll see if we can upload it to the website or something if you want to watch it again, or for members that didn't show up. And for those that did ask questions that we were a little bit more specific, we'll respond to each of those individually, and then you're welcome to reach out to the ABA office for a call. All right, have a great day, everyone. Thanks again for popping on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, we'll see you later.
Bye.